The lights inside
In
the
this
America's
life
Got
we
Talent
find our
theater were
way,
blinding,
singing
the
through
kind
the
that
night
make
and
big
day.
confident performers feel small. And yet as the father and son stepped onto the stage, there was something about their presence that made the room unusually quiet. They did not arrive with flashy clothes or dramatic poses. The father wore a simple buttoned shirt, slightly faded, the kind worn by men who work long hours. The son stood close beside him, shoulders tense, eyes scanning the audience as if searching for something familiar in a foreign place. They introduced themselves as Miguel and Daniel Reyes, from Manila, Philippines, and the accent in the father's voice carried miles of ocean, years of labor, and stories not yet told. Simon Cowell leaned forward, curious but guarded, while the audience waited, unsure of what was about to unfold. When Simon asked why they had come to AGT, Miguel smiled faintly and said they came because this stage was the only place big enough to hold a dream they had been carrying for years. That answer earned polite applause, but it was what came next that shifted the air. Miguel explained that Daniel had been singing since he was 5 years old, singing not because anyone taught him, but because music was the only thing that kept him calm when life at home felt uncertain. The family had lived in a single-room apartment in Manila, close to a busy road where jeepneys roared past day and night. Miguel worked as a dock laborer, lifting cargo under the sun, while Daniel's mother sold food in the mornings and cleaned offices at night. Money was always short, but music was free, and Daniel sang everywhere, in the room, on the street, sometimes quietly so the neighbors wouldn't complain. He paused, his voice tightening slightly, and admitted that there was a reason it was just the two of them on stage. Daniel's mother had passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden illness they could not afford to treat properly. The audience grew silent, and even the judge's expression softened. Miguel said after that loss, Daniel stopped singing for almost a year. The boy who once filled their tiny home with sound became quiet, distant, and afraid. Miguel did not know how to help his son grieve, until one night he heard a melody coming from the balcony. Daniel was singing again, softly, through tears. That night, Miguel promised his son that no matter how hard life became, he would stand beside him and protect that voice. What surprised the judges was Miguel's next confession. He said that he himself had once dreamed of being a musician. When he was young, he played guitar in small bars around Manila, earning enough to eat but never enough to move forward. When Daniel was born, Miguel sold his guitar to pay hospital bills, telling himself dreams could wait. They never did. Years later, a neighbor gave Daniel a broken guitar with missing strings. Miguel fixed it using spare wire and tape, teaching his son the little he remembered. From that moment on, father and son practiced together late at night after work and school, building something stronger than music, building trust. Howie Mandel asked what they would be performing, and Daniel finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. He said they would perform an original song they wrote together, a song about promises made in the dark and kept in the light. Simon raised an eyebrow. Original songs are risky, especially on a stage like this. The audience murmured, some hopeful, some skeptical. Miguel nodded at his son, and Daniel took a deep breath. The first note came from Miguel's guitar, gentle and steady, like a heartbeat. Then Daniel sang, and the entire room changed. His voice was clear but fragile, carrying a raw emotion that could not be trained. It sounded like truth. He sang about watching his father come home exhausted, hands cracked from work, still smiling. He sang about his mother's laughter echoing in memory, about nights when hunger felt louder than hope. The lyrics were simple but devastatingly honest, and as the song grew, Miguel joined in harmony, his older voice grounding Daniel's soaring notes. Halfway through the song, Daniel's voice broke for just a second, not from lack of skill, but from emotion. The audience leaned in, breath held, as he recovered and continued. That crack in his voice did more than any perfect note ever could. It reminded everyone that this was real. Heidi Klum wiped her eyes. Sofia Vergara pressed her hand to her chest. Simon sat back, arms crossed, expression unreadable, but his eyes never left the stage. Then came the first twist. As the song reached its bridge, Miguel stopped playing. For a brief moment, there was nothing but silence. Daniel kept singing, alone, unaccompanied, his voice filling the theater with vulnerability. He sang about fear, about wondering if he would ever be enough, about worrying that his father's sacrifices would be wasted. The camera cut to Miguel, tears streaming down his face as he listened to his son voice thoughts he had never known. This was not part of the plan. They had rehearsed with guitar all the way through, but Daniel had made a decision in the moment, and it worked. When Miguel rejoined for the final chorus, his strumming was stronger, more urgent, as if answering his son's fears with reassurance. The last note hung in the air long after Daniel stopped singing. There was a heartbeat of silence, then the theater exploded. The audience rose to their feet, cheering, clapping, some openly crying. It was a standing ovation before the judges even spoke. Howie was the first to talk, and he struggled to find words. He said he had seen many acts on that stage, but very few moments that felt like watching a family heal in real time. Heidi called Daniel's voice unforgettable and praised Miguel for being the kind of father every child deserves. Sophia said she did not understand every word of the song, but she felt every emotion, and that was what true art was. Then Simon spoke, and the room fell silent again. He admitted that when they first walked out, he expected a nice story and maybe a decent performance. He said he was wrong. He told Daniel that his voice was not just good, it was necessary, because it told stories people needed to hear. Turning to Miguel, Simon said that standing beside his son instead of in front of him was the most powerful thing he had seen that night. Just when it seemed the moment could not get bigger, the second twist came. Simon paused, looked at the audience, then back at the father and son. He said there are moments on this show when talent and truth collide, and when that happens, the rules change. Before anyone could react, he reached over and slammed the golden buzzer. Gold confetti rained down as Daniel froze in shock. Miguel dropped his guitar, covering his mouth, overwhelmed. Daniel looked at his father, unsure if this was real, and Miguel pulled him into a tight embrace as the audience roared. The camera caught Daniel whispering something into his father's shoulder, later revealed to be, "We did it, Papa." Backstage, the emotion continued. Terry Crews met them with open arms, praising their courage. Miguel admitted he almost stopped Daniel from auditioning because he feared rejection would hurt him too much. Daniel confessed he had been terrified to sing alone on the big stage, but knowing his father was beside him made it possible. The story did not end there. In the weeks that followed, their audition went viral. Millions watched and shared the clip, commenting on their own parents, their own sacrifices, their own dreams deferred and reborn. Back in Manila, neighbors gathered around small screens to watch, cheering when they saw the golden buzzer. Teachers from Daniel's school sent messages of pride. People who had never met the Reyes family felt connected to them. In the live shows, Daniel grew stronger, more confident, but always sang with the same honesty. Miguel remained by his side, sometimes playing, sometimes simply standing there, a quiet reminder that no one succeeds alone. Simon later said in an interview that their audition was one of the reasons he still believed in the show, because it reminded him that talent is not just about perfection, but about purpose. For Miguel, the biggest victory was not fame or applause. It was seeing his son smile again, truly smile, the way he used to before loss and hardship dimmed his light. For Daniel, it was realizing that his voice could carry not just his own pain, but hope for others. And for the audience watching around the world, it was a reminder that sometimes the most powerful moments come from the simplest people, walking onto a big stage with nothing but love, truth,